Most businesses never make it to seven figures, not because they lack ambition, but because they lack leverage. This is the 789 Show, where we break down how founders scale from 7 to 8 to 9 figures in revenue. I'm Kay Mikishi, and in each episode, we go inside the decisions, systems, and strategies that actually drive growth from operators who are doing it in real time. No fluff, no theory, just what works. Let's dive into it.
I'm Dr. Ellen McMahon. I am an audiologist. I live in Anchorage, Alaska, and so it's morning on my side of the country today. And I have both a brick-and-mortar private practice, of which I've owned for almost 11 years in about 2 months. But then I also hold multi-state licensure in, I think, 17 different states. And so I see patients all across the U.S. via telemedicine. And then I do rotational field clinics where I will fly to the different locations, kind of rotating around to help bring care closer to home so that my patients don't have to do the traveling portion, but then also get some in-person care. And then, like I said, the majority of the care, though, is via telemedicine.
I love that. I remember something that stood out about your story is you really kind of were on the forefront of leveraging technology instead of caring for your patients and incorporating that in your business. Can you share with us a little bit about sort of shifts that you're seeing in the industry right now?
Sure. So I think, being an Alaskan, I work in a remote location. So I live in Anchorage, which is not remote. However, being in a state with significant remote and accessibility issues, we were really early to adapt to a telemedicine model and to being more flexible with what follow-ups could look like. How do you provide care when they're not next door to you? And utilizing those different services. Early on, I didn't think much of it, to be fair, other than just being adaptable for my fellow Alaskans that live far away. And then when 2020 happened and we weren't allowed to do in-person healthcare outside of pending situations, my clinic was still doing just fine. We had already learned how to navigate those platforms. We had licensures in place. We had the screens and the microphones and everything that we needed to have. And even more than that, we had patient familiarity. So introducing telehealth care within my own practice wasn't unfamiliar. Now, some of them may not had used it before, but they had maybe used it at some way, shape, or form as an Alaskan. And so we were able to continue navigating through the pandemic with really fairly minimal kind of hiccups, so to say. That led to colleagues across the country reaching out, inquiring, asking for information, going, what do you mean you're still working? How are you navigating this? Really recognizing that what was just every day for us was something that was quite unusual for other people. And so I was able to help many of my colleagues learn how to kind of navigate and facilitate those roles really quickly, which allowed us all to better see our patients in a time that we weren't able to see our patients during that time. And so that led to less isolation, them being less alone and not having access to points to people. And so that's kind of where things got started. Part of my work then that really kind of escalated my need for multi-state licensure and the changes after COVID, what happened is state licensure laws changed. And so telemedicine laws changed, things got updated. We needed to just be kind of following what that trend looked like, because during the active pandemic, there were kind of like some carte blanche exceptions that were made so that people could be able to provide healthcare. But once that kind of expired, you needed to be current on whatever the regulations were as that kind of blanket exception rule had passed. And so that led to working on getting licensures all over. That led to doing integrative assistive technology. So using AIs for chart note taking so that I could have a better conversation and not feel like I was in 3 places at one time. That led to more like automation, just from time and confirmation and texting and support and all of that, so that patients have multiple touch points rather than that annoying call that inevitably comes when you're at the most inopportune time to say, do you remember you have an appointment tomorrow? You're like, yeah, I do. And I really didn't have time for this call right now. Thank you. Goodbye. And so, being able to kind of pull away some of those appropriate, but sometimes not appreciated reminders and turning them into text and to emails and to preferences of patients, and using technology that drops a voicemail in rather than a call with a live speaker that still gives them that reminder, and just looking at ways that we could be more fluid, but still not sacrificing reminders and technology and those supportive assists that we all appreciate in our busy lives. And so what started out as just kind of natural for Alaska turned into a recognition that we can push farther and do more and have a better consistent reach if we can look at how do we level that technology and use it for the positive to kind of expand what my abilities are rather than look at it as a replacement or as a negative or because I think there's a lot of negative connotation that comes with using AI and or integration because it's not personal. Well, we didn't take anything personal out of it. It actually allowed me more time. It allowed my team members more time because it took some of the nuance, just stuff off of our plates. And now I can't imagine a day that I don't have multiple versions of things running in the background at all times because it's what allows us to see the patients that we see and navigate time differences and all of the kind of parameters that we have to work through.
I think you stated that very beautifully, Dr. McMahon, especially the fact that technology doesn't really replace the human, right? And it sounds like you're very kind of versed and open to incorporating a lot of this tech and AI and streamlining. Can you tell us sort of how that has impacted your growth trajectory a little bit more? You're talking about sort of, where you've been, where you're at today, and sort of how are you leveraging all these tools to catapult you to the future of your business?
Sure. So we went from a single provider with 1 support staff to 3 provider and 8 support staff, all in a period of about 5 years. So, looking at how to do that and to have that type of growth potential using 2020 as our starting metric and forward is wonderful. We unfortunately watched lots of businesses and practices not survive that time frame. And not only did we not survive it, but we exponentially increased during that time and have just continued that momentum. In the last 3 years, we've integrated even more AI assistance in, for most of my colleagues, I would say like 8 to 10 patients a day is very average, if not full average for them. And we can see double that often, and not in a way that is lessening patient time or patient care or outcome and metrics used. But because we're just able to utilize it in a more succinct way, we've been able to open up our caseloads at a way that we don't feel bombarded. All of our chart notes are done in live time. We go home in the evening and things aren't unresolved. Whereas I know before, I am certainly guilty of many evenings at home chart noting, which is not what I like to do when I am at home, but I don't do that ever anymore because it's basically finished before I'm finished with the patient. And so, just how do you buy back your time, but at the same time allow you to be more accessible and resourceful and still seeing the same positive outcomes, which is important because it's not a benefit if you watch something have a negative response towards it, but when not only are you buying back personal time, you're buying back clinical time, you're buying back your sanity by not trying to remember who did you talk to at 11 a.m. versus noon. It's led to just overall better notes, better documentation, better patient management, and kind of a more personalized approach because I can just have those tools available rather than feeling like how much can I data dump really quickly and accurately and get to the next patient and be kind of running through all of these processes. Whereas me plus my AI and my team and the use of it now, we have a really good system for checks and balances where we can just be more engaged with our patients, which is lovely.
What does a typical day look like for you?
Sure. So my husband does also work. We work together, not together, as in we do not cross roles, which is the integral part in that. We have very different dynamics and roles within the practice, which is for us a good thing. But most days, I would say our days start the night before in terms of prepping for the next day. We have a just turned 7-year-old today, and then we have an almost 5-year-old in 2 weeks, and then we have a newborn. And so, we've got school drop off, we've got preschool drop off, we've got the baby that's always with me. And so, navigating that starts the night before. It's like which parent's going to which school or both schools or no schools. We kind of try to not talk about work before we leave for work. That's kind of a personal rule that we have is no work talk in the bathroom while we're all getting ready in the mornings. I can't say that it's always followed, but we do our best. And then as we kind of head off for the mornings, taking a kid or 2 kids or all 3 on some occasions, I'm kind of dividing and conquering, doing what we need to do. And then once kids are drop off, we typically have a phone call, kind of powwow for the day of like, hey, here's what my rough day looks like. Where are you at? Touch base. What does that need to look like? Do I need you? Do you need me? Kind of looking at it from that like administration perspective. Then I am in my office and I'm seeing patients all day, every day. And he's in his office doing everything that he does. He does insurance verification and billing for practices all across the country, as well as doing the business management side of my clinic. And so he has kind of his own business, but then also is integrated within our business. That's the calmest part of our day is when we're at work because, then inevitably the school nurse calls or somebody forgot a water bottle or whatever happens. Then the after school rush happens. One of us does pickup and then we'll take turns kind of depending on what each person's caseload looks like for the day. And then all madness gets home. Now, I will say our non-work talk definitely does not stop at the door when we walk in. We do our best. It does not happen during family time. It does not happen during like fun activity time. But if I'm making dinner or he's making dinner and we're both just kind of like dumping from the day, absolutely work gets discussed. Would be lying if I didn't say that work happened at home because it does. But it's not work as in pulling out the laptop and doing work. It's more like, hey, can I throw this on your radar for tomorrow? Or, hey, I saw you wrapped up for that. Are we finished? Do we need to reconnect? What does that look like? Then we navigate first grade homework and preschool color projects and squawking newborns because that's what they do. Constant fluid motion. On nights where I'm prepping for a field clinic, that means the baby and I are getting ready to leave, which means then he's got the big kids and I've got the baby and I've got a suitcase full of patient equipment that's carry-on and or mailed ahead. He makes sure that kind of all reservations are taken care of. So that way the baby and I just have to get off the plane, do what we need to do. And it's a team approach there. When I am on the road before clinic hours, we kind of chat for the day, chat in between patient appointments as needed, because even if I'm away, I still have children and a husband and businesses back home and, kind of work that into play. And he has just as many responsibilities that happen whether I'm home or not home. And so we just kind of keep going. Our kids are always around. Our kids are regularly in our practice. Many of my patients have held our babies. They've watched the big ones grow up. My clinic that I just had in California 2 weeks ago, I had a couple patients. I had the baby in a wrap, just kind of sleeping on my chest, and they asked if they could hold her. I said, here you go. I'll take a break for a minute. So my arms were happy to take a little time out, and it's nice to just see and grow in there. And I enjoy that we can show our kids what we do and we can then kind of reap those benefits, as well as them understanding that mommy and or daddy aren't choosing not to be with them right now, but mommy needs to go and do this, or daddy needs to go to the office and do this. And just like explaining that importance to them from the beginning. Sometimes it's hard. Sometimes it's not always easy. Like I had my daughter about 6 months ago just tell me, she goes, Mommy, our dog's doctor doesn't go away, so why do you have to be a doctor that goes away? And you're just like, heartstrings. And so we just explained to her that I do something that not a lot of people do. And rather than making everybody come to Alaska because it's cold and really far away, I go to them to help make it a little bit easier. We spin it in an age appropriate way that lets her see that there's things that we all get to do in life. And sometimes those roles take us away from home and sometimes those roles have us at home. And so then I make sure when I come back that I am in full mom mode. And that means I'm not doing things and all I am is dedicated to her and to our son and to our baby and my husband. And, so it's a constant ebb and flow. Are there days that I do it well? Yes. Are there days that I don't do it well? Also, yes. But I wouldn't trade it for anything. And I mean, we joke, but AI at this point meal plans for us. It tells us what to buy at Costco from the grocery store because we say, hey, this is what we're eating this week. Make it happen. Instacart, I'm your biggest purchaser because I haven't stepped foot in the grocery store and I couldn't tell you how long. So jokingly, but using all of those tools are what makes our life function rather than I would rather spend time with my kids and my husband than go to coffee any day, actually. Even on the hard days, that would be my choice. And so, we joke that we've used so much technology in the practice, but I use just as much of that into my home life at this point. Even like our skylight calendar at home that manages our craziness that we all have access to and that our nanny has access to and everyone's lives get placed into there because it's how we make life work. So we are certainly not the anti-technology house because technology makes my Costco grocery shopping list for me at this point, and that's okay, but it keeps things moving.
Absolutely. What a great note to end on. Thank you so much again, Emily, for sharing your insights and knowledge and wisdom with our community. And again, if you're out there listening and you're looking for other opportunities to grow your business as well, drop us a note and we'll see you next time.